award.
You've got a lot to do tomorrow. Lots to concentrate on.
Yes.
Don't worry about it.
It's a
I got
special
it
day,
covered.
trust me.
You know what, David, the better you behave, the sooner they'll let you do the announcements.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes.
And we'll red carpet eventually a board position up for you and everything. We've been looking to recruit, so.
Now, I see you're hiring a president position. Is that going to be filled soon? When is there going to be?
Oh, you're already ready for it. Okay. Yeah.
Do you know where your yard site is?
Oh yes, I do actually. Today I was watching it in the corner of my eye, and it stayed over here. And yeah, and one day I'll find out where they all went too. There's gonna be a secret stash somewhere. So yeah. All right, we're gonna start our service in just a second. Everyone's online right now. We'll start on page 6 with Shalom Aleichem. Page 6 with Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boechem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Ni L'Shalom Malachei Hashalom Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malachei Hamachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech, Malachei Hamachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now, turn to page 7 of our Siddurems, page 7 of our Siddurems. I'm going to invite up our Bar Mitzvah boy's mom, Lori, for our Shabbos candle blessing on page 7.
This is
Yes.
easier.
It is much
Than
easier. It is
scraping the
much
match.
easier. It was a bit of a handful before.
Yeah. I'll do it.
You need help? I've got it. I got it.
Okay.
You gotta press this down first,
Mhm.
and then it goes like.
There it is.
So
Thank
just
you.
press the top.
Okay.
There you go.
Look at that.
Someone put the candles in that?
No, it actually works out better that way though, because now they're gonna burn all evening, and so that's a solution. Has innovative solutions to engineering right there.
Well, you're not allowed to light up the candles.
No.
You're not supposed to. You're not
Okay,
supposed to.
are we going through this?
Yes.
Okay.
Come, let us welcome Shabbat. Light is the symbol of the divine.
The eternal is my light and my salvation.
Light is the symbol of the divine within us.
The human spirit is the light of the eternal.
Light is the symbol of the divine law.
For the mitzvah is a lamp and the Torah alike.
Light is the symbol of Israel's mission.
I, the eternal, have made you a covenant people, a light to the nations.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahad l'gner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
May the Eternal bless us with Shabbat joy.
Amen.
May the Eternal bless us with Shabbat peace.
Amen.
May the Eternal bless us with Shabbat holiness.
Amen. Shkoyach. Shkoyach.
Thank you.
Shkoyach. Very good. We're going to continue now on page 9 of our Siddurems, page 9 with Lachadodi. Lechai doidi likra kala yirada 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 b'nei Shabbat nikavela lechai doidi likra kala yirada 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 b'nei Shabbat nikavela shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad Hishmianu el hanuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad L'shem u'tiferet v'litehila Lechai doidi likra kala yadadai 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 b'nei Shabbat Nekabela lechaydoi dili grakala yadadai b'nei Shabbat. Nekabela likrat Shabbat bechu b'nelcha kihi mekor habracha mirosh mikedem nesuka sof maaseh b'machsha tehila lechaydoi dili grakala yadadai b'nei Shabbat. Nekabela lechaydoi dili grakala yadadai b'nei Shabbat. Nekabela hifori kiva orech kumi ori shir daveri kavod Adonai alai megila lechaydoi dili grakala yadadai b'nei Shabbat. Nekabela lechaydoi dili grakala yadadai b'nei Shabbat. Nekabela. Now we rise and face the entrance or exit of the building as we welcome in Shabbos bride. Boi v'shalom atzeret ba'ala gam b'simcha u'v'tzola toch emune am sigula boi kala lechaydoi dili grakala yadadai b'nei Shabbat. Nekabela lechaydoi dili grakala yadadai b'nei Shabbat. Nekabela. Remain standing for the Hatzi Kaddish on page 11. Yitkadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabbah Be'almadi rachirutei v'yamich malchutei V'chayechon u'v'yoymechon u'chayei techol beit Yisrael Ba'agala u'bizman kariv v'yameru Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach Le'olam me'olmei almaya Yitzbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitraman v'yitnasei v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei l'kudashat v'rechu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran mi'alma v'yameru Amen. Now turn to page 12 for the Baruchu. Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed. On page 13 we join together in the italicized text. Eternal God, your majesty is proclaimed by the marvels of earth and sky. Sun, moon, and stars testify to your power and wisdom. Day follows day in endless succession, and the years vanish, but your sovereignty endures. Though all things pass, let not your glory depart from us. Help us to become co-workers with you and endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. Baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv aravim. Now turn to page 14 for the Shema prayer. It's customary for us to cover our eyes as we recite this prayer. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kiro Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. You may be seated. V'yahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadavarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinatan levanecha v'dibarta bam B'shivtecha b'beitecha u'v'letecha b'derech u'shachbecha u'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, Adonai Elohechem, Emet. Continue on page 17 with the responsive reading. Eternal truth is that you alone are God, and there is none else.
May the righteous of all nations rejoice in your love and exalt your justice.
Let them beat their swords into plowshares.
Let them beat their spears into pruning hooks.
Let nation not lift up sword against nation. Let them study war no more.
You shall not hate another in your heart. You shall love your neighbor as yourself.
Let the stranger be in your midst to you as the native, for you are once strangers in the land of Egypt.
From the house of bondage we went forth to freedom, so that all be free to sing with joy.
Continue on page 18 with Mi Chamocha. Mi Chamocha Balim Adonai, Mi Chamocha Nezar V'Kodesh, No Ra Tehilot Osei Feleh, Malchutecha Ra'u Banecha Bo Keyam Lifnei Moshe, Ze Eli Anu V'Amru, Adonai Yimloch Leolam Va'ed V'Ne'emar Kifar Adonai Et Yaakov U'Olam Yachazak Mimenu Baruch Atah Adonai Gal Yisrael. Page 19. Cause us, O eternal our God, to lie down in peace and to awaken us each morning to renewed life with strength. Spread over us the holy shelter of your peace. Together,
Help us to order our lives by your counsel and lead us in the paths of righteousness. Be a shield about us, protecting us from hate and war, from pestilence and sorrow.
curb also within us the inclination to do evil and shelter us beneath the shadow of your wings. Guard our going out and our coming into life from this time forth forever.
Blessed are you, eternal, whose holy shelter of peace is spread over us, over all God's people Israel, and over Jerusalem.
Continue on page 20 with Vishamru. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledoretan berit olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledoretan berit olam. B'nei u'b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledoretan berit olam. Ki shet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim v'et haaretz. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledoretan berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat ledoretan berit olam. We now rise for tefillah for the Amidah prayer found on page 21 of our Siddurim. Adonai sefatai titahu fi agi tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotinu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. Ha'el Hagadol, Ha'gibor, V'Hanorah, El Elyon, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות באימהות ומביא גאולה לפני בניכם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומשיח ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע משיב הרוח ומבריח הגשם מקלקל חיים בחסד מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל אתה קדוש ושם הקדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך הסלע ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. We daven silently until page 29 for Oseh Shalom. Now join together for Oseh Shalom on page 29. Oseh Shalom Nimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Ve'imru, Imru, Amen. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Ve'al Kol Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael V'yemeru Amen. So can someone tell me a little bit about this week's Torah portion? What are some of the chapters, some of the things that we discuss in this week's Torah portion? I'm not looking at you, David. You can be rest assured. I'm not quizzing you right now. Anything special that happens in this week's Torah portion? Well, this week and last week's Torah portion deals with a very important chapter of our people. It deals with the very birth of the Jewish people. Go ahead.
Here had an angel.
Gabriel, yes.
Abraham
Yes.
as an angel.
Says hi.
Said hi and
Yes.
angel.
Very good. So we have birth, the inception. Good job. Good job. The very birth and the inception of the Jewish people happening in this week's Torah portion and last week's Torah portion. And what happens in this saga and this description of events is that we have Akedat Yitzhak, the binding of Isaac. And we have Gabriel, we have the angel of Gabriel who stops from Avraham Avinu, from slaughtering his son. And with that, we have birth of the Jewish people. And we'll talk a little bit about that today, and also make that relevant to where we are in our time and place. Recently, we've faced a lot of anti-Semitic incidents. We had a bomb threat in Edison most recently. About a week ago, there was a threat made to all New Jersey synagogues. And at a time like this, it makes us wonder, what would life be with some sort of superhero saving us from all sorts of dilemmas that we face, all sorts of forms of anti-Semitism. And talk about how that's actually a very Jewish industry traditionally. So last week, we left off with the birth of the Jewish people. Abraham and Sarah's commitments are made to the Jewish faith. And we read about the birth of Isaac and Sarah and Abraham's plight to become parents. Last week we read Parshat Lech Lecha, but this week we enter into a new Torah reading, and now we're in Parshat Be'era. Our Torah portion describes the sequence of events. Abraham takes his beloved son to Mount Moriah, and there God commands him to sacrifice his son. Isaac knows better than to follow his father, but atop Mount Moriah, Abraham raises a knife to cut Isaac's throat, but he's stopped by the angel Gabriel, and it was an epic test of faith. Earlier this week, I read an article about a sci-fi movie that came out recently. And as I read the article, I could not help to think of an equally popular fan fiction audience that has a voice in this week's Torah portion. I'm reminded of a film that came out a while ago. It was Marvel's film. It was known as Venom. And the film is a sequel of a film that was released even earlier. However, the original was released a few years ago and several days prior to Rosh Hashanah, actually, of all days. It was a clear nod ahead of the upcoming Jewish holiday of Rosh Hashanah by the producers. The film's proximity to that holiday could not have been any more intentional and well thought out by the producers. The film circles around the theme that we find in Akedat Yitzhak, the Torah reading from Rosh Hashanah, in which we read in Parshat Be'era. You see, the legends of superheroes and supervillains, they're interwoven into our psyches as Jewish people. Told and retold for millennia, the biblical stories of David and Goliath, Moses and Pharaoh, Jonah and the whale, and Samson, and later folklore describing the golem all appear and appeal to a very basic understanding of our people. Our people are a people in need of superheroes. Defenseless victims we are accustomed to being. We all know too well the saying by Rabbi Hillel that if I'm not for myself, who will be for me? If I'm not for others, what am I? And if not now, when? For this reason, superheroes and supervillains and their production have been largely a Jewish enterprise traditionally in the United States. Think back to some of your most early comic book strips that you can remember. All American Publications, the publication house that would later merge with DC Comics, was founded and funded by names like Max Gaines, Harry Donenfeld, and Jack Leibowitz. All were first and second generation Jewish Americans looking for inclusion in the tapestry of American society, and that was a difficult challenge for the 1930s and 40s. During a period of high xenophobia, Jews were barred and discriminated against by waves of immigration, neighborhoods, profession, and education. According to Gerald Hartman, a renowned expert and collector of World War II-era comic books, the comic book industry was really created by Jews because they couldn't get jobs in certain industries such as advertising or illustration due to anti-Semitism. As a result, they came up with their own medium that really appealed to the masses. And during this period, our imaginations ran fluid with thoughts of inclusion, equality, and justice. The earliest superheroes demonstrated these characteristics. During a period when Jewish-appearing dark-complected actors were customary sidelined from starring in glamorous roles to be given to blonde-haired, blue-eyed, fair-skinned men, Superman was an exception. As Rich Goldstein points out in a Daily Beast article, for the first and second generation Jewish American creators of Superman, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, it was Jerry who was the model for Superman. Goldstein also points out that from Jerry Siegel's superhero would inherit his ethnically unique dark look with curly hair, brown eyes, and a chiseled jaw. That, and again in the 1940s, the team would use other Jewish male models for inspiration, namely Stanley Weiss. And it's no surprise given the period of ethnic origins of the earliest comic book creators who and what were the earliest villains of our beloved superheroes. Anyone want to take a guess of who the greatest super villains were in the 1940s? Who was? Yes, it was Nazis. Superman appeared fighting against Nazis, and later on the Soviet Union alongside other pseudo-Jewish superheroes like Captain America. And the animosity felt by Germany was so strong that during the Second World War, German propaganda issued an official response to the person they referred to as the invented Israelite known as Superman. DC Comics' main competitor, Marvel Comics, shared a similar genesis and inception, and the comic book house was funded by Mo Goodman, who was also a second-generation Jewish American. The late second-generation Jewish American Stanley Lee acted as a publisher for Marvel Comics. Jewish themes persisted in Marvel Comics as well. Of the Marvel characters, X-Men's Magneto was a Holocaust survivor. Kitty Pryde and Saber were also featured with Jewish connections to the Holocaust and personal vendettas against injustice, bigotry, and hatred. But the Jewish story of overcoming adversity, of justice, of echoing the timeless words of Rabbi Hillel, "If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I'm not for others, who am I? And if not now, when?" would mean nothing without a proper grounding in our biblical narrative. Our Parshat HaShavua, our Torah reading of this week, that we read also on Rosh Hashanah, of Akedat Yitzhak, grounds us in these themes in words and bounded to them together in the superhero comic that we will be talking about a little bit more further, and that's Marvel's comic book of Venom. Avi Arad, the Israeli founder and producer of Marvel Studios and the film Venom, interweaves into the Akedat narrative his theatrical piece. As the storyline and plot progresses, 3 extraterrestrial bodies escape from an alien host planet, and they live off of living terrestrial beings. And a symbiosis of life forms guarantees both that the extraterrestrial and the terrestrial life forms survive on Earth. Failed symbiosis results in an expiration or death of one or the other. The extraterrestrials are initially captured and exposed to terrestrial humans as part of a human experiment gone wrong. And the objective of the experimentation is a symbiosis of the life forms, although the projected outcome of this failed symbiosis would be certain death. During the first round of experimentations, the film appears to directly mimic the saga of Akedat Yitzhak. And the opening scene includes the villain, the CEO of the Life Foundation, someone known as Carlton Drake, and he refers to the Binding of Isaac episode in a powerful monologue. During the scene, Drake turns to his fellow scientists and declares obnoxiously, "Thank you for all bringing us to this moment. Our names will be spoken of long after we are dust. History starts today. This is day 1. Drake then turns to his test subject, a young man introduced by the name of Isaac. Drake states, "There is no reason to be frightened, Isaac. There's no need, Isaac. Do you know that's a biblical name?" he says to the patient. "God said to Abraham, 'Give me your son. Show me you're willing to sacrifice the one thing that is most precious to you.' And Abraham was willing." Drake continues, "You know what has impressed me most about that story is not that Abraham is willing to sacrifice Isaac. I don't know what sort of God would do that for someone. That doesn't change anything for me. Isaac is the hero of the story," Drake proclaims. "Look around you. Look at the world. What do you see? You see war, poverty, a planet on the brink of collapse." Drake continues, "I'd argue that it is God who has abandoned us, and he hasn't kept his end of the bargain. Isaac, so now it is up to me to put this all right. And at this time, Isaac, we will and we can. This time, I, human, will not abandon you. The abandonment felt by Drake refers to God's promise to Abraham in the ending verse of our Parsha reading of today, in which an angel is sent by God to Abraham for a second time, and the angel promises to Abraham in Genesis chapter 2, verses 16 through 22, that because you have done this, and you've not withheld your son for sacrifice, your favorite one, I will bestow my blessings upon you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the heaven and the sands of the seashore. And your descendants shall seize the gates of their foes. All the nations of the earth shall bless themselves by your descendants because you obeyed my commandment. The tragedy, the true tragedy of Akedat Yitzhak and of the film is that at times it feels as though God has abandoned us in this promise. The Holocaust, continued anti-Semitism, imminent ecological disasters, and Israel's struggle with her neighbors all list the tragedies that continue in our lives. It's tempting to become a villain in such a world, to want to intercede upon God as the true arbiter of peace, justice, and equality, righteousness. It's all alluring, but is a human condition. The problem is we are only human, and we can fight like hell in courts, in politics, or even in an army, which we believe is right and just. But in the end of the day, even if we were right, we may still lose. We wish to imagine ourselves as our people, as superheroes, overcoming adversity and challenges with heroic outcomes always, but sadly, we are not gods. This is not always the outcome of our human condition. We can merely live up to the heroic endeavors of our people as God's chosen people, as it is described in our Torah. Our heroic endeavor is that despite the reality of the brokenness of our world as people, we will persist in our faithfulness in God, in good over evil, and we will live eternally by the message of Rabbi Hillel, that if I'm not for myself, who will be for me? If I'm not for others, what am I? And if not now, when? Let that be our message from this week's Torah portion, as a recommitment of ourselves and to our values. Can you hear us, son? May it be God's will. Amen.
Amen.
Go ahead, yes.
How the Captain Man Jewish?
How do I know they're Jewish?
Yeah, Captain Man Marvel.
Captain America.
Captain America, it's a pseudo-Jewish, so they believe that because he has certain things that there's little sprinkles of hints left in his character, and people theorize that he is Jewish for that reason. People believe Superman as well, because based off his appearance and because of who the people who drew him originally were, they were Jewish, and they believe that because it's a reflection of themselves, he was Jewish.
Oh, like Superman and Captain Man, right?
Captain America, yeah, and Kitty Pryde and Sabra as well. And there's another film coming out soon, and it will have Sabra in it, and I think Kitty Pryde, and they will showcase their Jewish identity in the film.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just saw like one movie, like I just saw like Captain Man, Captain America, Venom.
Yep,
Yeah.
lots of films.
Yeah.
All right, David, come on up here. I want to just have a word with you. Have a word with you, with the Bar Mitzvah boys. There'll be more words tomorrow to be shared. Okay. So David.
Hi, everyone.
Camera's right over there, but it's no need. David, we're at that very important time, okay? Over the course of, how many months have we been studying together?
Over 3 years.
It's been since I started here, okay? But you've been studying for a much longer period of time. You've been waiting for this moment for a very long time. And over the several months since I've gotten to know you, it was just as I began here, I got to get to know someone who is truly very committed to their faith and to their tradition. And I've been very impressed by the preparation that you've put into preparing for your bar mitzvah. Every single week, we've spent more time together than any other student on a regular basis. We spent about an hour together each week. And that paid off in a very important way. Yes, it was an hour. And there were certain days where you would say, I'm going to prepare more, I'm going to prepare more, I'm going to prepare more. You were very excited. And I'm very excited that you were so excited in bringing that koyach and that excitement to our congregation. There are times when I turn to you and you're ready to jump on up here and to be part of the service. And I only pray and hope that that may continue. And you continue to be a great model for our congregation and as well for our Hebrew school. So I have a book that I'm going to present with you today, and then I have another gift I'm going to give you tomorrow. This is a bar mitzvah with ease. It's a book that you may read at any time, and then we can talk about it. And I look forward to welcoming you into Gesher soon. Okay?
Right.
Shakot.
David.
David.
Say thank you.
Thank you.
Shkoyach. Mazel tov. Tomorrow's the true mazel tov.
Thank you, Rabbi.
No problem. No problem. So tomorrow we're going to read the full Misha Berach list because we have a special event and that is a bar mitzvah. But today I'd like to ask if there's anyone who'd like to share any names that they'd like to have included on the Misha Berach list. Please share with those names right now.
Bill Fisher and Stephen Carroll Lichtenstein.
Bill Fisher and Carol Lichtenstein.
And Steve.
And Steve Lichtenstein, sorry.
Barbara and Alan Steinberg.
Barbara and Alan Steinberg. Yes. Howie Glick.
Marcia Pons.
Marcia Pons.
Carol Didio.
Carol Didio.
And Lee Benner.
Lee Benner.
Oh, and Susan Salzmer.
Susan Selsmer.
Yes, he has bronchitis.
All right. So the words to the Misha Berach prayer may be found at the very back of our siddurim. We're going to open up the ark, and you may rise as the ark is being opened.
Okay. Now let's put my glasses.
Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor Hadrecha Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor Habrecha Le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shalema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Remain standing for the Aleinu prayer on page 30. Aleinu l'shabeach l'hidon hakol l'teit gidula l'yotzeh breshit shelo atzanu k'yaratzot velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama shelo sam kelkeinu k'achem v'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam v'anachnu korim ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל ושכינתו זו וגובהי מרומים הוא אלוהינו אין עוד Emet Malkeinu Efazulato Kakatu Betorato V'yadata Hayom V'hashevota El Averecha Ki Adonai Hu Elohim Bashamayim Mima'al V'yal ha'aretz Mitachat Ein od. We therefore hope in you, O eternal our God, soon to behold the splendor of your might. Then will false gods vanish from the earth, and the idols will be utterly cut off to heal the world through the sovereignty of the Almighty. Then will all acclaim you as their God, and forsaking evil turn to you alone. Let all who dwell on earth acknowledge that unto you every knee must bend and every tongue swear loyalty. Before you, O eternal our God, let them humble themselves, to let your glorious name give them your honor. Let all accept the yoke of your dominion, that you may rule over them soon and forever, for the dominion is yours, and you will rule them in glory. As it is written, the eternal will reign forever and ever. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz Vayom hahu yihye Adonai echad Ushemo echad. You may be seated. So I'll be reciting names from our Yortzeit list, and after the names from our Yortzeit list have been read aloud, I'll be sharing with our community the names of members of our community who have recently passed. Today, our Yortzeit list includes the following names: Charles Schulman, Aaron Shapiro, Anita Kahn, Hilda Kipperman, Helen Martinez, Barbara Silverman, Sydney Sinkoff, Anna Cohen, George Davidoff, Sophie Namias, Bert Farber, Seth Schneider, Louis Fisher, William Offenberg, Juliet Rabinowitz, Luis Cohen, Wilford Martinez, Milton Rothberg, Abe Kogan, Ethel Tucker. Recently passed from our community are the following names: Philip Bolstein, Stanley Toke, Steve Goldblum, Jacob George Tobel, Peter Luzama, Stan Kerwin, David Schneider, Raphael Marcus, Florence Schneider, Sylvia Tannenbaum, Florence Gallagher. Are there any other names anyone is observing a Yortzeit for here today?
David Goodman.
David Goodman,
Amanda Newman,
Amanda Newman,
Ben Rodriguez,
Ben Rodriguez,
Fred Kellogg,
Fred Kellogg,
Judy Merman,
Judy Merman,
McDonald Smith,
McDonald Smith,
Larry Bershad.
Larry Bershad. Are there any? Yes.
Jill Sapsovitz.
Jill Sapsovitz. Are there any other names? No other names? Okay. The words to the mourner's cottage can be found on page 33. If it is your custom, please rise. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shamei rabbah v'alma dirat hirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon u'yomechon u'vayedecho beit Yisrael v'agala u'yizman kari v'imru anei Yahei shmei rabbah mivorach le'olam olamei almaya Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitka'ar v'yitorman v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shamei l'kudashah b'rechu Le'ela minkol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiram v'yamla v'imru amen Yehi shlama rabba min shamaya v'chaim aleinu v'el kol Yisrael v'imru amen Oseh shalom v'rama v'yaseh shalom aleinu v'el kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort all who are bereaved, and let us say amen. I'd like to invite up someone for our announcements. Who's it going to be today? Laura?
One of you.
It's going to be Laura today. Okay, thank you.
I don't want to do it.
All right, thank you.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Congratulations, David.
Thanks.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Well, before I do the announcements, I usually say something when it's the kids' bar mitzvahs, and I know tomorrow morning I'm not going to be able to see you tomorrow morning. So I want to tell you, the 4 years, I think you were my Hebrew school student for 4 years, David.
Wow.
Yes. And I am so very proud of you. I'm so proud of how mature you've become. I see what a nice young man you are. I love your enthusiasm in Hebrew school. You ask the best questions that you help me learn a lot about our religion. So I want to say thank you for being my student for the last 4 years.
Thanks.
And I'm going to miss seeing you on Wednesdays. But I'll see you a lot. All righty.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So tomorrow we'll be here for David's bar mitzvah. And it'll be virtual in person. Torah study is going to be at 9:30. Worship will be at 10:15. Tuesday, November 22nd at 6:30 is going to be our interfaith Thanksgiving dinner here at Etayim with Spotswood Reformed Church, Trinity United Methodist Church, and Central Jersey Muslim Community Center. Bring a dairy or vegetarian main dish, appetizer, side dish, or dessert, plus non-perishable food item to donate to the local food bank. November 18th, the 5th and 6th graders will lead services. We're going to have our first Havdalah and game night in a long time. It's going to be the first Saturday in December. December 3rd?
I thought
That was December 7th.
It's the first Saturday in
Oh.
December.
So the first Saturday in December at 6:30, after our Havdalah service, there will be a potluck dairy. So bring stuff for everybody. You could bring a dairy parv item to share and then bring a game to play. Jack Kusher, our former cantor, is on an off-Broadway play called The Tomato Can't Grow in the Bronx. There's more information in the weekly email. We have our next student Shabbat on December 10th. Hanukkah Shabbat and dinner is going to be December 23rd. And there's a lot of info in our weekly email. So thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
All right, we're going to join together for Adon Olam on page 34. Adon Olam is on page 34. Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nira Li'et Nasa V'Hezo Kol Azai Melech Shamo Nira V'Yachat Reik Hitlot HaKol Levado Yimoch Nora Vehu Haya Vehu Hove Vehu Yia Betif Ara Vehu Echad V'Ein Sheni Lecham Shilo Lechachbira Beli Reshit Beli Tachlit Velo Ha'oz Ve'hamizra Vehu Eli Ve'chaya Goali Ve'tzor Chedli V'yetzara Vehu Nisi Humanos Lit Menat Chosi Ve'yom Ekra V'ya'ado Akid Ruchi V'yetz Ishan V'ya'ira Ve'im ruchi geviyati Adonai li velo ira. Good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And Jeff is going to lead us in the Motzi as well as for the Kiddush, our Bar Mitzvah boy's father. Mazel Tov, and we'll meet over there very shortly.